Now I could do a video about being depressed and starting treatment for depression, bipolar disorder, or whatever, but this is a video for the spouse or the family member of somebody who has a mental illness and getting treatment for that person. Because in my situation, um, I thought all of my symptoms were caused by outside influences. I thought my wife is making me angry. Maybe I'm just not getting the right food or whatever, and so it caused a real drag on my family because I didn't know what was really wrong with me, and um, I guess I wasn't willing. I don't know if wasn't willing to get treatment, but maybe I just was ignorant of what I needed. Maybe that's it. Maybe I was ignorant of what I needed, and so I'd like to give just a couple of bits of information. In my situation, I was living at my parents' house with my wife, and they said you can't live here anymore unless you're willing to go down to see a doctor. And it was actually Dr. Amen. He's a famous doctor. It was down at his clinic in Fairfield. They wanted me to get some brain scans and get some treatment, and I didn't want to go. I didn't think anything was wrong with me. I thought people who took drugs were weak. I thought they just didn't know how to handle their emotional problems. So I don't know why they believed me when I said I'd go to get treatment, because the only reason I said I'd go is so that I could live at my parents' house, keep living there, because I wasn't working, and it would have been a big burden for my wife to pay for an apartment. But anyway, so I went, and I was really mad because it was really weird because they put me in this small room with my parents, the doctor, and my wife, and then the doctor was just talking to me, and I was just so angry. It just so depressed and just miserable, and I ended up getting a prescription for a drug, and I ended up taking a drug, but I eventually went off, and then it went back on again because I realized how bad things were. But if you are living with somebody who is totally miserable all the time, totally angry all the time, and might have a mental illness, then you do need to have not kind of like an intervention, but like an ultimatum. You need to say, you have to get treatment or I'm going to leave you. Because you don't want to live with somebody who's not willing to get treatment if they do have a mental illness, because that's just abuse and it's not fair, and that person's never going to be happy. I would never be happy if I never got treatment, and it took me a long time to get real treatment, to really get committed to it, because I was terrified of taking drugs. I mean, I just terrified, and so the fear of taking drugs was greater than the pain of the depression. I guess that's what I would say. So, but eventually, the pain of the depression became greater than the fear of taking drugs. So, I finally got to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep trying other drugs until one works. Because for a while, I was willing to take drugs, and I took drugs, but they weren't helping, but I just kept taking them just because I thought maybe they were helping a little bit, but they weren't really. Like, I took Depakote for like a year, it didn't do anything. That's like my number one thing I remember, is I just took a drug for just to take it. And but I eventually got to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to keep trying drugs until they actually do make a difference. And so I got on lithium, and that was a lifesaver. Lithium is amazing, an amazing drug, and I think everyone who has bipolar disorder, like agitation and uncontrollable anger, I think that's the first drug that they should try. It's a natural element. It's actually, in studies, it's been shown to actually protect the brain and do good things for the brain. It used to be put in soda, and people used to sprinkle it on their food, believe it or not. But the depressed person, especially if they're bipolar and they have uncontrollable irritability and anger like me, they're just so angry at everything. So they're not going to seek treatment on their own. And so you're going to have to tell them, I can't live with you like this. You need to go see a psychiatrist, and you're going to have to tell them I'm going to move or whatever, and you're going to have to do it. I know every situation is unique, so don't take my advice as, exactly what you as an individual should do, but just, in certain circumstances, that's what does need to be done. And you're just doing something good for the person. If they're like me, you're gonna have to alleviate their fears. You're gonna have to tell them, I understand that you're afraid of taking a drug. I understand you think it's gonna hurt you, have bad side effects. Maybe even some people could even be afraid of death. You just say, I think, I understand you think you're gonna die if you take a drug, but just do some research on how drugs work, what they do. That's one thing that has really helped, is understanding what they do. And tell them they can start as low as they want, crush up a pill, start with the low as you want, and start once every other day, whatever, until they get comfortable with it. Just go real slow, and educate yourself, for instance, the antidepressants, they work on serotonin. Zyprexa works on norepinephrine and dopamine, and these are good things. These drugs work on increasing levels of the good, of the levels that you need of the feel-good chemicals. They're called, dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine. These drugs help increase not the production, but just to explain it quickly, they make it so there's more of those chemicals in your brain, helping your brain to function normally. It's not like they're going to give you a high or anything. You can get a high with the ADD drugs, stuff like that. They can make you feel really good for for a while, but don't live with somebody who's not willing to get treatment, because we're here on earth to improve ourselves, improve our situations, and if the person you're living with isn't willing to improve their situation, especially when it's as bad as a mental illness and you're getting abused and they're never happy, then what's the point of living with them? If they want to be miserable and they're not willing to get treatment, then you need to leave them. I'm kind of scared to say this, because that's a really big deal to leave somebody, but I see all the pain and damage I caused my wife, and that's just the conclusion I come to, is don't let them hurt you just by living with them. That's not fair to you. It's not fair to parents. So do what you can to, and then let them know, hey, you might be afraid to take a drug, but it's take the pain. Be a man, be a woman, take the pain of taking a drug. The side effects might be bad, especially for the first one, but continue on and things will get better.